overall theme for what sectors that you would maybe stay away from, or where are investors putting more bearish bets?
So I think, investors have been bearish on healthcare prior to the earnings coming up. I would say that could have been a contrarian play because a lot of it has been political. It's just been this fear of, national healthcare and Medicare for all.
Right.
Yeah. So in the last 3 months or so, healthcare has done, pretty poorly across the board. But over the last couple of weeks, if you look at the flows, you can see flows going into XLH, XBI, some of State Street's biotech and healthcare ETFs, LabVIEW, Cure, our healthcare and biotech ETFs. And I think that, those are names that might surprise us. So Pfizer and Lilly, they have decent dividends. They've had some decent growth in, their pipeline. So 30 out of 100 names for Pfizer coming up, and growth in oncology, immunology, gene therapy. So I think that those names might surprise.
All right, Sylvia Jablonski, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
That does it for us. Squawk Box picks up coverage next.
I'd like to donate these books.
Thank you very much.
Where'd you get that book?
A man donated it.
Yes? I'm sorry.
But I need to retrieve
I
one.
believe you looking for this.
No. Thank you so much.
Return the book.
Poverty reduction and promoting inclusive growth in Asia and the Pacific. These are the main themes of the Asian Development Bank's 52nd annual meeting. We speak to ADB governors and finance ministers as they gather in Fiji. Catch the CNBC coverage Thursday and Friday.
Reporting on the Federal Reserve is one of the pillars of CNBC's coverage.
You guys ready? Here we come. Let's get to Steve Leisman with the Fed decision.
Up by 1/4 point.
Put up the Dow. We're up 250.
Obviously, the market reacted to it.
New Chairman Jerome Powell will hold his first news conference.
Afternoon. Leisman gets the first question.
Where's your biggest concern here? Is it in overkill when it comes to rates? There's very little that moves the markets as consistently as the Federal Reserve does.
Give me Treasury.
I feel tremendous responsibility both to get my reporting right and to get my analysis right.
Delivering Alpha is the #1 investment event for people in the hedge fund and institutional money management business. One of the headliners was the President's Chief Economic Advisor, Larry Kudlow, talking about the state of trade with China.
So far as we know, President Xi does not wish to make a deal. The ball is in his court.
If you watch Delivering Alpha on television, online, via social media, you are going to come away with actionable ideas that can make you money.
Got it. You're done, though. Good morning. Alphabet shares falling sharply, dragging the NASDAQ lower. We'll tell you what was in the company's report that's weighing on that stock. IPO rush, the company formerly known as WeWork, joining the parade of unicorns filing to go public. Guest host Maggie Wilderauer will weigh in. She's on Lyft's board of directors. And a barrage of corporate earnings on the way. We'll hear from General Electric, Eli Lilly, Merck, and Pfizer. GE's on a Friday. I guess they'll try anything at this point. Let's try a Tuesday. That's just in the next 60 minutes. It's Tuesday, April 30th, 2019. Squawk Box begins right now.
Live from New York, where business never sleeps, this is Squawk Box.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Box here on CNBC. We are live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Let's take a look at the U.S. equity futures at this hour. Yesterday, you saw the markets in slightly higher. It was enough for both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ to set new highs once again, but you do see some weakness in the NASDAQ today. We're going to talk more about why in just a moment. Some disappointing results after the bell for Google last night, or should I say Alphabet. NASDAQ right now indicated down by about 48 points. S&P futures down by 2.5, but the Dow futures are still indicated up. They're up by almost 25 points this morning. Overnight in Asia, Japan's markets continue to be closed for a public holiday as the emperor steps down and the crown prince takes over. Elsewhere, you can see that the Hang Seng was off by about 0.6%. Shanghai Composite up by 0.5%, and then stocks in Korea with the Kospi down by just about 0.6% as well. In Europe this morning, with some of the early trading that's taking place, you're going to see that it's a mixed picture. The biggest weakness is coming from the CAC in France, at least among the three major averages. Stocks in Spain also a little weaker. They're down by about 0.6%, but stocks are slightly up in Italy. Finally, take a look at the Treasury market here in the United States, and you will see that the 10-year is yielding 2.532%. Andrew.
And our top corporate story of the morning, I want to talk to you about it. Alphabet, parent company, of course, of Google, reporting first quarter earnings. It beat the Wall Street's estimates and forecasts, but revenue fell short of the mark due to a slowdown in advertising growth. Alphabet actually posted its slowest growth in 4 years as it faces more competition and continued struggles at YouTube, which is estimated to account for 15% of the company's sales. You can see that stock in the pre-market right now down off about 7.5% this morning. We're going to talk a lot more about Google, or I should say Alphabet, throughout the program.
You know, that was after closing it at a new all-time high, but that's still, if you're a shareholder, it's like, whoa! Yeah. You know, it's like, God, I was so happy at 359, and then 90 points right off the top. Because you think of Google in terms of advertising as almost being unstoppable. I mean, how do you stumble?
I wouldn't even describe it as a stumble. It's just it's what people expected.
But they get body language from the company to get. They don't figure it out themselves. Analysts.
The company itself may be a little surprised, though, by the analyst reaction or by the street's reaction to these numbers too.
A trade update. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin kicking off a new round of talks. Speaking to reporters this morning at a hotel in Beijing, he said negotiators hope to make substantial progress at this meeting, as well as the talks scheduled for next week in Washington. And the White House is standing behind President Trump's pick for the Fed Board of Governors. Larry Kudlow told reporters that the vetting process is underway for Stephen Moore and that they were still behind him. Moore said over the weekend that he's facing a smear campaign against him. He'll join us live at 7:45 a.m. Eastern. I know that there was a piece yesterday where apparently the White House is going back and looking at a lot of his writings from years ago.
Sarah Sanders said that they were going through, her endorsement was a little less warm. She said, yes, we are in the process of vetting those things, and we'll get back to you when we have an answer. Larry Kudlow came out afterwards and gave a little more of a hearty endorsement of Stephen Moore.
And there's a whole group of people, I won't mention any names, that don't like him just because he's a Wall Street Journal editorial board type. He's a thinker, then they'd call him, in a nice way, they'd call him a right-wing extremist. Whereas, on